Okay, so hi. You guys are watching this because you are ready to start learning your lines by heart. So no memorization, please. You can if you want, but then in addition to that, you're also going to need to learn your lines by heart. So several people have asked me, okay, well, how do I do that? So I'm making this to go along with your how to start a cheat sheet, especially for Shakespeare. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is find every scene you're in, and if you want to make life easier on yourself, you want to color the edge of the page so that when you're flipping through you can find it, or if you have like little tags you can put on or little post-it notes, that'll make each scene a lot easier to find, and then you don't have to like spend time going through it every time looking for your scenes. Then for each scene, if you look at your cheat sheet, you need to start by filling out these questions. Now you can do these in a journal, or you can do these right on the facing page in your script, which is why it was not double-sided. Not to waste paper, but to provide you with an instant journal. So start with these questions. You need to know, like any good reporter, the who, what, where, when, all those kind of details. So the first question is, where am I? Then, what am I doing here? What do I want? Why here? Why now? Why do I want this thing in this moment? Where am I going? Sometimes even more importantly, where have I been? What has happened just before this? It's almost like when you're flipping through channels and you come in the middle of a conversation. Sometimes that happens on stage. People walk in the middle of the conversation. We need to know where you've been and what the conversation has been leading up to this moment. Which leads to a very easy thing, which is, who else is with me? What are the other people in the room? And not just the people that are speaking, but the people that are watching you speak or listening to you speak. And then, perhaps the most important is, what is my opinion of who is with me or the situation I'm in? And does this opinion of these people change from the beginning of the scene to the end of the scene? And as it changes, how does it change? Does it change once in a big way? Does it change a couple of times in a smaller way? It's a lot of back and forth. So these are the first questions to start off with. Okay, so then the next thing on your how to start a cheat sheet talks about using a different color than your highlighter, because I imagine that some of you will have highlighted your lines. Or you could just use your pencil, or if you haven't highlighted at all, you can use a highlighter for this. But we need to start off by underlining all of the words in the scenes that you say, or that are said to you, or even about you by other characters, which you A, have never heard or seen before, B, don't know how to exactly pronounce, or C, for which you do not know the exact definition. This will probably be a lot of words. Even as a professional who does this all the time, I still hit dozens of these words in a scene. So you should have very many of these. And it's especially even for words that you think you know. One of my favorite examples is the word fair, F-A-I-R, fair. So with the word fair, we're like, oh, we know what that means. But then we read it in the sentence and it doesn't exactly make sense. We're like, well, that seems silly. It doesn't seem like the right definition. So if you think of all the words, all the different definitions of fair that you can, how many can you come up with? You can pause it here and try to think of some. Ready? Pause. Okay, so I'm imagining now you've unpaused and you came back. And if you've come up with any less than 11 different definitions, you missed some of them, because in the OED there's like 11 definitions, completely different ones, of the word F-A-I-R. Not even playing on the words that sound like that, F-A-R-E, fair, which a lot of people go to as well. So we have to be thinking as actors about what it is the audience is hearing in the story that we're sharing with them. So that's the next thing you need to do is underline all these words, and then once you have all these words, right on that facing page so that you don't lose the definitions, you need to write down the definition, or like the 2 or 3 maybe out of the 11 definitions of fair, for example, that you think work or might work in that situation. And then when we get into rehearsal and we get to that point, we're like, wait, what does this mean? Or I'm not really sure what I'm talking about here. Then we can say like, okay, what does this mean? Let's look at the definitions. All right, which one of these things fits in the situation that we're in with the people that we're talking to or about, and our opinion about them or about the situation we're in? what one works. Okay, let's try the scene with that one that works. And then if we discover, well, it doesn't work super fabulously, maybe we could try another one of the definitions. So give yourself some room with these definitions and make sure you don't just write down like one-word things. You need to give yourself some information so that we can use it in rehearsal. Then the next thing, after you've looked up your dictionary words, is we can actually start learning our lines by heart. So again, we do not want memorization. I will say this again and again. You need to know your lines with your heart, your body, your voice, and your mind. It will take all of these to make a performance where we're truly sharing a story with an audience who will come to care about your characters and really want to know what happens to you. I would suggest that you begin learning your lines by heart by finding the last 3 words before a full stop, so a period, an exclamation point, a question mark. And you can use another color than you used for the dictionary work. I like to use red for stop, but now you're going to try to learn the whole thought up until that full stop as one thought. This can sometimes be a little overwhelming because sometimes it can be a pretty big chunk. So if you want to look at the examples that I have, for this, the examples are from Much Ado About Nothing. The first one is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. And it starts with one woman is fair, yet I am well. Another is wise, yet I am well. Another virtuous, yet I am well. But till all graces be in one woman shall not come in my grace. So this might seem like a long chunk to learn. But if we're going to learn it all in one thought, it's much better to sort of learn line A, which is one woman is fair, yet I am well. And then learn A with B. So one woman is fair, yet I am well. Another is wise, yet I am well. Instead of learning, one woman is fair, yet I am well. Okay, I've got A. Now I'm going to learn B. Another is wise, yet I am well. Okay, now I'm going to learn C. Because by the time you get down to E, you're like, okay, I can do this. And then you're like, I think I say the word well in that first one. But you can't really remember A. So really build up. Be able to say, one woman is fair, yet I am well. Another is wise, yet I am well. Another virtuous, yet I am well, before you move on to the other 2. Does this make sense? Feel free to email me questions. Okay, so that is sort of the best way to start with that. There's also another example because this has some prose and some verse in it. And I think what I'm actually going to do is end this How to Start video, and actually give you a separate video that's about prose and verse, which can really explain the difference about this. But the short answer is that if a thing looks blocky on the page and the stuff all down the side where you start reading on the left-hand side is not capitalized and it's very blocky, like all the text is in a big chunk, that's prose, and you learn that full thought by just sort of breaking it up where it makes sense for you, maybe along the commas or just sort of where it chunks up for you, and you can write it out for yourself separately if you like. But then if it's in verse, which means that instead of being in a chunk on the page, the right-hand side is kind of curvy because it just kind of ends randomly, and along the left-hand side where it starts, it's actually all capital letters because that means they were sort of writing it in poetry. So it's actually in a poetical form. So if they're writing it in verse, the way that you start to learn your lines by heart in chunks is still to look for the full stop. So the full stop might be, if it's lines of verse, it might be like 6, 8, 25 lines in. I don't think there's one that's actually that long, especially not the way that I cut this play. But you want to get all the way down to that full stop and then learn from the beginning and learn it in chunks by verse line, always working from the first piece of the verse line to the next piece of the verse line, adding them up together instead of learning them individually and trying to slam them together at the end. So always building up, building up, building up to a full thought. All right, good luck. This was your first session of How to Start. Yeah.